Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio operator KE0OG, here with the episode 179 of Ham Radio Answers. Today, let's look at MFJ's new inexpensive Morse Code keys. Available for $30 and under, these new keys are fully capable and make QRP more financially accessible to many who would like to try CW QRP. In ham radio speak, QRP means operating with low power, generally 5 watts or less, as opposed to the usual 100 watts for HF radios from the big manufacturers. Those are Yaesu, Kenwood, ICOM, Elenco, Elecraft, Flex Radio, and others. The key thrust in QRP is the idea of simplicity and the challenge of operating in a low-power environment. Traditionally, to make the most of the 5 watts, the mode used is Morse Code, known to hams as CW. A CW signal at 5 watts can cut through the noise about as well as a 100-watt single sideband signal. As attractive as that sounds, CW is no longer required for licensing, though any ham can use it. In fact, technician licensees even have CW privileges on 80, 40, 15, and 10 meters. Given that CW can be hard to learn, some QRP rigs are now coming out with the single sideband and digital modes. A 5-watt signal is 13 dB down from a 100-watt signal, just a bit more than 2 S units. In good circumstances, where you might be 5.9 to another station, with 5 watts you'd be 5.7. Under these ideal circumstances, I've had some single sideband QRP conversations. CW QRP doesn't need such ideal conditions given that Morse cuts through where single sideband won't. CW is sometimes known as the mode that always gets through, although it is true that these days some of the digital modes like FT8 cut through even better. But let's stick with CW because of its simplicity. Now, I mentioned learning CW as a barrier, but the only thing you require to overcome this barrier is persistence. Most people can learn CW if they put their minds to it. But there is one other barrier to CW, and that is the high cost of CW straight keys. Whether you use your regular rig for CW, and all modern 100-watt HF radios are capable of CW, or whether you are using one of the many popular CW QRP kits or pre-manufactured radios, a telegraph key can be hard to come by and in some cases cost more, even far more, than the radio itself. Let me show you what I mean. Here are some QRP rigs I own. I covered several of these in Ask Dave number 105. This one is the MFJ-9040, a 5-watt CW rig for 40 meters, one of the earliest non-kit QRP radios, which I bought over 30 years ago. It's still available today from MFJ. Here's a 30-meter CW radio I built from a kit from some outfit in California, which I built in the early 1990s. This is a more recent 20-meter kit from Oak Hills Research, which my wife gave me as a Christmas gift a few years ago. Next comes the BITX40, a 5-watt single sideband only radio for 40 meters from hfsigs.com in India for only US $59 with a pre-assembled and tested board, although you have to provide the enclosure. Next, from the same source, is the Micro BITX for US $129, which provides 5 watts in either CW or single sideband on all bands. Quite a technical accomplishment for such a low price. My favorite QRP rig is this 40-meter 5-watt CW only QRP Labs QCX kit for US $49. It's a rather sophisticated radio with many features not found on traditional QRP radios. Now, you don't have to content yourself with inexpensive radios. Here is the MFJ Xiegu X5105 all-band 10-watt all-mode radio, which sells for $669, a very nice radio. In addition to these before you, I note that Elecraft sells some exceptionally capable QRP radios with outstanding receivers. The point is, there is a whole QRP world out there. If you don't know CW, you can still play the single sideband QRP game with one of the more capable radios. But by and large, QRP becomes more attractive if you're using CW. So, if there are so many inexpensive CW QRP radios out there, why are Morse Code straight keys so doggone expensive? They seem to be made as trophies. It's almost as if they're more a monument to one's income rather than how much one enjoys CW. Here's one from Germany called a small hand key for only US $270. Here's a Vibraplex straight key for $210, though as an option, you can get the base literally gold-plated. Oh, and if you want to go for the top, take a look at this GHD key for only US $550. Now, to be fair, there are some less expensive keys on the market, hovering in the $70 region, such as this Chinese Army key. All of these are available via morsex.com. Now, there is one much less expensive straight key available from MFJ, the MFJ-550 for $15. It's a great key for learning and can be purchased with the code practice oscillator as the MFJ-557 for $40. The issue with this key, and why it has never become popular, is the pivot point. The pivot point is just a hole in the bracket and will wear out with use. I recommend you upgrade a bit from this key. MFJ recently announced general availability of two inexpensive yet capable Morse code keys. This is a major step forward in the QRP world, particularly for new hams who want to get into CW QRP but don't already have a good key. These keys, the MFJ-556M and the MFJ-556P, are both made for MFJ by CWMorse.us. They look so dinky. They're the same key, with the P model having a plastic base and the M model having an aluminum base. What excited me about these keys is that here are a couple quality keys that should last for a long time and give consistent results. And what most excited me was the price. The M model is available for only $30 US. The plastic-based version is $23. I bought and paid for the metal-based version, which arrived last Friday. Let's take a look at the key. It's not big, fitting easily into the palm of my hand. The metal base is constructed to run out under the knob, so you don't have the problem of having to hold the key in your other hand while using it, such as I have to do with this small key. This vintage J38 is mounted on a base. Otherwise, when pressing the key, it will flip up on you. But the MFJ key doesn't do that. And it has rubber feet so that it won't skid around on the table in use. Let's look closely, comparing features with the legacy J38. The J38 pivot point is where the key lever pivots as you press on the knob. The pivot point is adjustable as the key wears. This adjustment allows the key to be used for many years. Well, here's the pivot point on the MFJ key. Inside are ball bearings to reduce the wear to a minimum. This screw here on the J38 adjusts the key travel. The equivalent adjustment on the MFJ is this screw. Note there is a nut that can be tightened a bit to hold this adjustment in position. Lastly, on the J38, This knob adjusts the tension of a spring that determines how hard you need to press the key, and the MFJ equivalent is this screw adjustment here. Here you can see the points that make the actual contact on the J38. The MFJ uses these points. Connection is made to the J38 at these points. By the way, not these points. And the MFJ key has an 1/8 inch stereo receptacle. In fact, MFJ supplies a cable with the right stereo plug on one end, and you will need to attach the right connector for your radio. I had a CW QSO last evening with a station in San Gabriel in California. Here's the setup I used. This is the 12-volt battery. Here's the QRP Labs QCX radio, which I took out of its case. I used my Apple earbuds. This jumper connects the radio to my station vertical, a Butternut HF9B. And the key is connected to the radio via a simple 1/8 inch stereo male to stereo male cable. So I used this simple 5-watt setup. The person I exchanged code with was using a Kenwood radio. I gave him a 599 signal report. He was plenty easy to copy, at least until the QRM came along. He gave me a 559 report. I'll admit my Morse is pretty rusty and currently runs about 10 words per minute. I like the key. It proved easy on the hand and very easy to form clean characters. I did notice I'd drop in an extra dit from time to time, so I'll probably tighten the tension a bit to keep that from happening. I'll admit I am delighted with the key. Now, the company making these keys for MFJ is CW-Morse.us. This black key is a review key CW Morse sent me last March. I did a video on this key, Ask Dave number 126. Although I do have to hold the key down with my left hand while using it, it's a great little key, and I said so at the time. Now, the company, which in March consisted of Joseph Delgado and his teenage son, is now supplying MFJ with 2 of their models. You can see other models at CW-Morse.us. Since the keys are made using 3D printed parts, they can create variations of all kinds, including color. Let me point out a couple things about CW operating that may help you get started. Don't send faster than you can receive, otherwise the other station will come back at you pretty fast and you'll get lost. Don't answer another station faster than they're sending. After all, the point is to make your CW clean and copyable by the other station. Slow down a bit when sending key information or insert more space between characters. This makes things like numbers more easily readable at the other end. If you completely copied everything the other party sent, use R as a prosign at the beginning of your next transmission. If you miss something, don't send the R, but rather say something like, "Got most of that, but missed your name." Do use Q signals and standard abbreviations, and be sure to send 73 at the end of your QSO. I have a video, Ask Dave number 14, that covers the anatomy of a CW QSO. Oh my, I could go on and on with my version of CW best practices, but be aware that others may take a different approach. Most operators out there will be patient with you. As far as finding slower stations on 40 meters, check from 7050 to 7060 and 7100 to 7125, give or take. A simple dipole with a simple QRP rig should net you many CW QSOs. And the new MFJ keys really reduce the financial barrier to getting started on CW. Kudos to MFJ. In channel news, LCSC.com decided to stop sponsoring Ham Radio Answers. They said that Augies aren't the type who need their goods and services. I'm not surprised, given I told them this when they approached me in the first place. The deal was for $100 a month, and they only stuck with it for a month. Oh well. I was in talks with ICOM about sponsorship, but those just faded away. So if you know of any ham radio supplier who'd like to sponsor me, and in exchange I'll run an ad for them in every video, let me know. Thanks for all your support, suggestions, and ideas. Please like and share this video. Please subscribe, and also click the bell so you'll get email notification of all new videos. I like to distribute knowledge widely, and my videos are free for the viewing on YouTube. Thank you for the many patrons that are supporting this channel via patreon.com, and to those who drop a little something into the tip jar at ke0og.net/tip-jar. All is most gratefully acknowledged and appreciated. By the way, if you look at the text just below the video on YouTube, just prior to the comments, you'll find an OG mug like this one. They make great gifts. Until we next meet, 73.